It's never too late, whether you're 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, however old you are. It's never too late to live out your dreams in the way you want to.
Marcus, welcome to the FITTEAM show.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Look forward to getting to know you a little bit better and hearing a little bit about your story.
Perfect. Yeah, right.
What I'd like to do is, just tell us, where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Marcus Peterson. I grew up here in Inglewood, California, Los Angeles, California, basically. Stayed here for the first 18 years of my life. Then I went to undergrad in Kansas for about a semester, and then Seton Hill, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for the next 3.5 years. And then I graduated from my undergrad and came out of college, pursuing football, but I had to work out with the Cleveland Browns, but I didn't get signed. So then I went overseas in London and played American football and also obtained my MBA out there. So I was there for about a year, getting my MBA in global business finance, and then came back and got some recognition from the Jacksonville Jaguars from me playing, and also the Los Angeles Chargers. And then as time progressed, the summer of 2018, that's when I signed with the Chargers. So after Jacksonville, that's when I came back home to LA and signed with the Chargers. So pretty good.
Awesome. That's a great, summary. Let's take it maybe step by step. So childhood, growing up, what was some of the hobbies that you had?
Growing up was really good. I lived with my parents, my mom and my dad. I was the only child in the house. So music was like my biggest thing as far as what I really liked. I didn't really play instruments. I just liked listening to music, all type of different music. I was always into sports. Basketball was like the biggest sport for me. And then I started playing football at my 10th grade year of high school. So growing up was pretty good. More of a, middle class, comfortable living. School was not my forte as far as the educational part, especially around middle school era. And then I went to a good high school, private high school, which is here is called Price High School, very small, graduated with about 25 graduates. So it was very confound and basically like a one-on-one, if that makes sense. So all the teachers were engaged, and just at first when we were younger, it was like too much because it was too strict. But now as we grow older, we understand, what it took for us to become, successful leaders. So I graduated, and there's about 3 of my classmates that are in the NBA right now. So pretty good. So growing up was a lot of the questions I had and the things I thought weren't fair because being too overprotected. Obviously, when you grow older and you start to live more, you understand why it is that, your parents and your teachers and your family were so involved in your life.
You said 10th grade is when you started playing football?
Yeah, so I was always into basketball, and then so right now I'm at 5'11", so I probably was like 5'8" at the time. And so everyone else was getting, those summer growth spurts at around 6'3", 6'4". So I had the body type for football, but like my best friend at the time and still now, he wanted me to play. So he was like 2 grades older than mine. So like obviously at that age, when you're influenced by people and like your friends and you kind of do what they do. So that's kind of how I got into football. And then I kind of just stuck with those last 2 years. It's crazy because going into my senior year, I was going to quit because I didn't like it because of the coach we had at the time. And then, God bestowed it on me to play that senior year, and then that's when everything started.
So when you were you just a natural athlete? When you started in 10th grade, were you started?
Yeah, it was more of the speed. It was more of the, I didn't have great hands, or it was just basically being, an athlete, because in high school you had to play special teams, offense and defense. Mm-hmm. So it's just, learning from the examples and the drills and watching everybody else do it. So more of leaning towards the athletic part rather than the talent part. So the talent part grew with, training and
right.
defense.
So when did you said you almost didn't play, you said senior year.
Yeah.
When was it you thought you'd maybe play pro?
Professional, maybe my junior year of college.
Okay.
So I was just doing it, like I said, because my best friend, was doing it. So it's just something to do after school, my friends, things like of that nature. It was cool at the time for me. I didn't really do it because I loved it.
Right.
And, I've always watched, but the thing is, I've always watched football on Sundays, after church or like on Thursdays whenever they had it. So I've always loved watching football. I just, never played it. So, yeah, so my junior year I had like a really good year, but then the coach we had really didn't like. So we had a fallout, and I was like, I'm not gonna put myself through that stress. And then he ended up not coming back. And then we had a coach that was an assistant who I really loved, like as a person and like as a father figure. So I really came back for him, honestly, and then thank God it panned out the way it did.
Did you have a moment in high school football that stands out to you, a game or something that stood out to you as?
Yeah, definitely. We had a away game. I forgot who we were playing, but I had 5 touchdowns that game,
Okay.
and we lost. We lost, but after my dad came on the field and just started hugging me and crying, and we just had like a moment. So I'll never ever forget that.
Wow. And then, so after high school, you didn't. It wasn't until you said your second year, or was it of college, that you thought maybe you'd go pro, or you started thinking about it? It became more.
Yeah, my junior year, I started thinking about it because I was out here in Los Angeles training in the summer and working out with like NFL guys, NFL quarterbacks, receivers, and DBs. And I started to like train more and more and being around the environment of the more passionate players, more passionate. So it's like, when you're in the atmosphere, you're like, wow, this is kind of cool. So I developed that passion by being around it and start watching film, and I kind of fell in love with it as much as I did basketball. So I remember I was working out. I forgot who it was, but it was a receiver. And he was like, good job today, blah, blah, blah. What team do you play for? As if like, I was talented enough to be looked at on the field as if I was an NFL team. I was like, oh, no, I'm in college now. I'm a sophomore going to my junior year. But, oh, okay, nice. Well, keep up the good work and you can, definitely get to the league. But that's when it hit me like, damn, I think I'm going to start taking this serious. Right then and there. I'll never forget that. So that's when it triggered and it clicked.
Right. So what changed for you at that point once you decided I'm going to start taking this serious?
Say that one more time.
What changed for you as soon as you knew, like, I'm going to start taking this serious? It just clicked?
Yeah, right there.
Going forward.
I remember we were training at USC, which is University of Southern California. And what it was at first it was just fun to do and to kill time and be around my friends. Then it switched to now this is a goal for me and not just a goal for my friends that I'm just around. Mm-hmm. So it became a goal for me. So as far as watching film, literally digesting the whole atmosphere, because like when you, like if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're whatever you are, you have to soak yourself in it, meaning watching film, reading books, self-education, being around other colleagues of that nature. So literally I was just soaking myself in football, like watching games, watching film, being around it, working all the time. So I think soaking myself in it as a lifestyle, that's when it started to, become more of a norm for me.
Right. What's some of the experience, maybe some of the harder or tougher challenges or experiences that you faced up to this point that you want to share with everyone?
What I've been learning over the years is once you get to about 24, 25, you have to start unlearning things that you've learned as far as what is depicted, what is told, what was taught to you, and really going in and doing research for yourself and not just relying on what other people say. And that's what, life always teaches you. I always say life is the greatest teacher. The biggest thing is just, the no's that were said, or the you can'ts, or the naysayers, the doubters. But that's the biggest thing that pushed me. Like, in all honesty, if I would have had the college career or senior year that I wanted, then I wouldn't have that desire to go to the NFL like I did. It all stemmed from people saying that I couldn't. So it was a blessing in disguise that it didn't pan out, because I'd have been okay, satisfied, and who knows where I'd be now. But it was more of I've always been that type where if you tell me no or I can't do something, then I just have to do it, like, regardless of whatever measure it takes. So that's what led me to really focusing and pinpointing on making it.
When you decided that you're going to go for it, did you have some people help coach you or hold you accountable? Love to have you share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I had a great support system in my parents. At first, they didn't understand because they weren't really into sports like that. So obviously, as parents, they want you to have education and just kind of what they learned when they were younger, like get a job, So they didn't really understand. So I had, my best friend, my trainer, and other like constituents that were in the football realm that I surrounded myself with, that were just motivating me by them motivating themselves and motivating me. So that was the biggest support system, and also like motivational videos. And then now on college, teammates, a lot of them are trying to go to that next level. So just surrounding yourself with those like-minded individuals.
Absolutely. What advice do you have for someone that's maybe just getting started to, that they want to, follow and do something that you've just done and obviously get the league? What advice do you have for them?
In any industry you go to, my biggest thing is you don't I met with Gary Vee, and it says you're gonna die one day, so you only live once. So you have to. Well, for me, we only get this blessing called life one time, so you might as well exhaust all opportunity and all just potential of living the best life you can, especially like understanding, the youthfulness that I have, because I always know that, for me in my 20s, these are like your selfish years where you have to exhaust any type of opportunity you can. So my advice would be to literally look within yourself. Self-belief is key. Self-control, self-motivation, having everything internal first before you can do anything external, because you're going to get some no's, you're going to have some regrets. You have to have that armadillo skin to break through those no's, or just finding a way and pushing yourself, because there's a million times a day where you're going to be like, you know what, maybe this is for me, I have to do something else. But it's like, if you give up, then what? You know what I mean? And what I've been learning is, and if you give up on something this small or something mediocre, then later down the line, you're going to give up on something when you get uncomfortable again. You're going to give up on something, you get uncomfortable again. So learning to be comfortable in being uncomfortable, and just knowing that, it's all going to be worth it. Because if I would have gave up like the many times I wanted to, then, only God knows where I'd be right now. And I feel like I'd be in a more of a uncomfortable regret situation that I can't take time back. So
That's a great message. A lot of times you hit that for a lot of people hit that first wall, and it just lets them, they just stop for whatever reason. And it's the more you can overcome, the more challenges you overcome, the more success you're going to have.
And another thing too is, like, I remember in college, because when I went to college, so after my postgraduate, it took me a whole year after that to finally make it to the NFL. So it was a good 2-year gap. So like in college and in that period, I kind of had like knick-knack jobs, and I would see, people of certain ages or in certain environments where it was like depression, and it was more of like they come to work complaining, or they just weren't in the right mind frame that they wish they would have. And then people would tell me like, yeah, man, I wish at that age I had the mindset you had, or I wish when I was your age I would have done this. So like, if you keep hearing that multiple times, and you keep seeing like with your own eyes, like the body language of, this is not where I plan to be, or now in a stuck environment. So that's what motivated me the most. Body languages of others and hearing testimonies of others, because it's like, damn, I have this age, I have this opportunity, this is very temporary for me, and I don't want to be in a situation where I regret not doing this. So like, for me, it's like, I'd rather say, man, why did I do that, rather than, man, I wish I would have done. So that was a big key for me.
That's awesome. So that 2-year gap while you were doing the side jobs, and how did you stay focused on going towards that goal?
Like I said, just seeing other people in the dysfunction and more of not liking where they were. That was the biggest thing for me. It's like, there's no way I can be that or feel that. And understanding that I have the time right now and the opportunity to get myself out of that, or not to get to that route. So that was like the biggest motivation and key for me. Cause it's like, and then also having friends too, like friends in the NBA, in the NFL, in the music industry or entertainment industry, or just people I've known, and seeing their success, that drove me as well. Like, man, I remember this and that, and now they're really successful. It was never, and see, some people take that as hate. Now, I never looked at it as hate. It was more of a motivational thing for me, because it motivated me too. It's like, man, you got to get it. You like it. It was more obtainable, if that makes sense. So that was the biggest thing, is seeing others, you know, looking at testimonials, looking at, you know, things of that nature, and just knowing within myself I was talented enough. And I knew, you know, once I get a certain age, I don't want to have any regrets.
So you mentioned, you know, obviously five touchdowns in high school. Obviously, playing in the NFL is a major accomplishment. Any other accomplishments that you want to share or point out to the audience?
Yeah, these last 2 years have been very much a blessing. Just like I said, these last 2 years long, I'm obtaining my MBA from one of the top business schools in, you know, the UK, and I wasn't even going to graduate from high school. Like, that's how much desire I did not have. I only applied to colleges and wanted to graduate because, you know, I didn't want to feel left out because everybody else was getting accepted, and I honestly didn't want to feel like the scapegoat of the group. So that's the only reason that I applied for college or even wanted to go, is because everybody else was doing it, and I just didn't want to feel left out. So again, another blessing in disguise. So that was a big accomplishment. Also, you know, getting featured in, you know, MSNBC, having a Forbes article, and then recently 30 under 30, and just traveling the world. I've been to almost every country now on business and a vacation portion, as far as like modeling and walking and shows in London, Paris, New York, and also Los Angeles. So that's my thing, is with focusing on plan A, because, and I say that so much because if I wouldn't have been so focused on my plan A, none of that stuff would have trickled down and happened, or none of those connections of, you know, calling the CEO of whatever, you know, on my phone, having that access to those different type of people in those markets, and learning. Because, like, for instance, like I tell people, if I would have just went to the NFL right out of college at 22, 23, I wouldn't have been at the same mental mindset that I was at 25. Meaning I wouldn't have those 2 years, that 2 to 3 year difference of experiencing and taking those hardships and those battles have grown. I have grown not only physically but mentally. And like, when you get thrown in the fire with such a big platform like that, you have to know yourself, because even if you think you know yourself, like, it's so much of a fire of media expectations, people from like kindergarten coming out of nowhere, you know. So that's why I'm so glad I went the backwards way. And that's honestly what really got me in. When I spoke to Jacksonville and like the Colts and the Chargers, they were astounded and proud and happy of, you know, me traveling overseas and getting my MBA. There was many times where we didn't even talk about football. We just talked about traveling and, you know, business and outside of football. And sometimes I had to remind myself, like, I'm here for football. But it was just in the conversation, a human to human interaction, with like the GM. So that's what, looking back at that time, it's like, that's definitely what I needed to go through to get to where I am now. So I understood. So all the unanswered prayers and just the unanswered questions that I had 3 years prior were not answer, or it wasn't a light bulb until, so it's understanding God's timing and just, doing the best you can, living to the potential that you want to live.
That's great. So what's like some goals you have, say 5 years from now?
As I get older, I used to do that, and used to get asked that a lot when I was younger, of what can you see yourself in 10 years, 5 years. I don't know. I don't put those type of long-term expectations on myself, because as you knew, like 6 months ago, we didn't know anything about coronavirus. So you just never know what's next. Obviously, I have plans and goals, but I don't put expectations on myself to a 5-year plan, because if it's 5 years and I don't get to where I am, now I'm in a state of trying to rush myself. So that's a lot of things that can affect people's mental health as well. It's like I thought I would see myself married, or I'd see myself making this much money, and when they don't do it, then now they're in a state of mind where, am I a failure? So I never put any of those expectations on myself. So to answer your question, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I have no idea. But the momentum that I'm doing now, as far as trying to tap in every avenue and industry, going towards, I will hopefully exceed whatever expectations I have for me in that 5 to 10 year plan.
Awesome. Where can people that want to connect with you, or find out more about you, where do you recommend they go?
Yeah, so I came up with an apparel brand as well the day after I signed with the Chargers, because obviously in business, timing and temperature is everything. So the timing was perfect. So I came up with my brand. It's called MP Motivational Apparel, which 100% focus on Plan A, stay persistent, and as you say, prove yourself right. You can find me on Instagram at Marcus T. Peterson, also on LinkedIn, where we've met at Marcus Peterson, and also my website at www.mpmotivationalapparel.com.
What's some last words you want to leave everybody with?
Some last words I would want to leave everyone with. Perfect. Man does not always have the last answer. God does. Believe in yourself and live out the potential you would want yourself to live out. And it's never too late, whether you're 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, however old you are. It's never too late to live out your dreams in the way you want to. When you see people on TV or your family members living out their dreams because they gave that sacrifice, and it's never too late. And never be stuck in a situation where you feel like you're stuck. There always is a way out. Just find it and work hard and sacrifice and find happiness. As we know, life is too short. And so seeking happiness will always be the route.
That's a beautiful message. Great way to end. Appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on, and look forward
Thanks, Chris, for having me. Thank you.
In the future.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.